See this narrow strip of land. It's called Siliguri Corridor or India's chicken neck. It is barely 20 kilometers wide and it is connecting mainland India to its entire northeast, home to roughly 50 million people. Look who sits right next to it, Bangladesh. Recently, Bangladesh has sought China's support on a major river project not far from the corridor. Nothing has been built yet, but even the possibility of Chinese engineers working this close to India is enough to raise concerns. And on India's wider map, the signs keep stacking up. Chinese-funded ports and development projects stretch all over South Asia. As the biggest country in South Asia, India has for decades dominated the region. But that dominance is being tested.
So please remember, the Indian subcontinent, or South Asia as we call it, was primarily a zone or area of Indian influence. But that influence was now being challenged as China became a bigger and bigger power.
So how exactly is China doing this? It comes down to three things: money, military ties, and political influence. Let's start with money. Here's what China's presence in the region looks like today. From Pakistan to Sri Lanka, China has financed or developed ports stretching across some of the world's busiest maritime routes. For Beijing, they are gateways for trade. For many Indian strategists, they are also becoming part of a broader strategic network. Analysts describe it as the string of pearls. The concern is that this civilian infrastructure could one day serve military purposes too.
Even if I take the Chinese word on face value, that they are only investing because of business reasons, the outcomes would be strategic.
None of this happened overnight. In 2013, China launched the Belt and Road Initiative, China's huge economic push to fund ports, railways, and roads across the globe, tying dozens of countries closer to Beijing.
China is the number one trading partner for all South Asian countries. India is not. Every single country wants to have Chinese investment.
Let's have a look at China's flagship regional project in Pakistan, launched in 2015, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC. It promised highways, railways, power plants, and the deep water port of Gwadar, linking western China to the Arabian Sea. More than a decade later, it remains one of China's biggest overseas infrastructure investments.
In more recent years, we've seen that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is being portrayed as China's imperialist expansion or interest in South Asia. But on the other hand, I also feel that at least from the Chinese perspective, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it was initiated with the intent to be a flagship project to showcase the whole developing world, the global South, that China is able to help a country that has chronic domestic economic problems with capacity building, with infrastructure projects.
China's regional strategy has also been evolving. It's no longer just building roads and ports. Increasingly, it's investing in factories, industrial parks, and manufacturing. And a major South Asian country, Bangladesh, with more than 170 million people, has become one of the biggest winners. With a fast-growing economy, a huge garment industry, and millions of workers, Bangladesh has become an attractive place for Chinese companies looking to expand overseas.
China wants to export its overcapacity. China has a deliberate effort being made to, for example, transfer some of its labor-intensive industry to lower-cost countries, lower cost in terms of labor. And Bangladesh offers an ideal destination for that type of collaboration.
China's economic scale has given it significant advantages. Its economy is roughly 5 times larger than India's, allowing Beijing to finance projects across the region at a pace New Delhi has often struggled to match. So what does all of this have to do with India's chicken neck, where this report started? For New Delhi, China's economic partnerships could become tomorrow's security challenge. Nowhere is that more evident than in Pakistan, India's longtime rival and China's closest strategic partner. China and Pakistan are building one of Asia's closest military partnerships, from fighter jets and submarines to satellites, drones and air defense systems. China has become Pakistan's largest supplier of military equipment. That partnership was put to the test during the conflict between India and Pakistan in May 2025.
India is heavily concerned. India is deeply concerned. The conflict in May 2025 very clearly showed that this collaboration has reached a level where it poses a major military threat to India. The Pakistanis are using Chinese satellites. Pakistanis are using Chinese drones. Pakistan are using every single modern technology that is coming from China. Pakistan is importing fifth generation fighter aircraft from China, which India doesn't have. Pakistan has already imported and is going to build AIP embedded submarines, which India doesn't have.
The fighting drew global attention after Pakistan claimed its Chinese-made J-10 fighters had shot down several Indian aircrafts. India disputes Pakistan's account.
The latest data shows that almost 80% of Pakistani defense imports come from China. China and Pakistan have always been very, very close partners. So the worry is that if China is the closest ally of these countries, then India would be under pressure in South Asia.
Across South Asia, China has become an increasingly important security partner. Bangladesh is one of the clearest examples. China also supplies most of Bangladesh's major military equipment, including fighter jets. Chinese-built submarines operate from submarine bases built with Chinese assistance. Military exchanges and training programs have further deepened ties between the two countries. The competition doesn't stop at the border. It stretches across the Indian Ocean. The ports built for trade are the same ones now shaping the region's naval balance.
Indian Ocean, as you know, for India is a very sensitive region. India would not want another great power to be moving around in the Indian Ocean. But if China at a certain point in time, maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the line, decides to operate its Navy, PLA Navy, out of these bases, that would really squeeze India and put India under tremendous pressure.
India has not simply stood by and watched these changes unfold. It has responded by strengthening regional partnerships, expanding naval cooperation, and investing in new connectivity projects of its own.
The government has responded with its own plans and projects to develop the naval infrastructure in India's island chains and cooperation with its own neighbors like Sri Lanka and the Maldives. China's increased engagement has done is there is more proactive approach from the Indian side as well.
For India, the challenge now goes well beyond the military. It's also about managing relationships with its neighbors. And that's where the story becomes political. Nowhere is that more evident than in Bangladesh. For more than a decade, India had built close ties with Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. But after she was removed in a popular uprising and fled to India, New Delhi suddenly found itself associated with an increasingly unpopular government. For many Bangladeshis, criticism of Hasina also became criticism of India's role. The new government in Bangladesh is trying to balance relations with both India and China rather than choosing one over the other. That's just not diplomatic strategy. It reflects something deeper about how connected Bangladesh and also other South Asian nations are to India. Families, languages, faith cross the border in both directions, which means whatever happens in Indian politics doesn't stay in India. It echoes straight into how India is seen across the region. And for decades, India has held one advantage China has never been able to buy. For decades, many people across South Asia look to India not only as the region's largest economy, but also as a democratic example.
India's biggest advantage has been almost its idea of a democratic liberal country. And I think as long as that was the idea, even if governments changed, you had military dictatorships in Bangladesh, you had the royalty in Nepal, the people of these countries, they look towards India as an exemplar, that this is something which our country should also emulate. And over the last 12 years under Mr. Modi, that is the advantage which has been lost.
If that advantage is fading, what should India do next?
There has to be a political investment in the region. And that would mean, first of all, delivery of promises that have been made in the past. Once we gain greater understanding, there has to be more sensitivity to the domestic aspirations of each of these countries. Another important factor can be in our own domestic politics. Often narratives are such that we are alienating our neighbors. And I think that's a strategy that should be carefully thought about.
Remember the 20-kilometer strip of land that brought us into this story? everything you have seen, the ports, the jets, the submarines, the elections, connects back to that same stretch of ground. It's really a story about two countries competing for influence in South Asia, one with deeper pockets, the other with deeper roots. Which do you think wins out? Let us know in the comments.